So I wanted to do film, but I know the trend right now is the TV because we have a lot of like streaming devices. So even when you do film, it's for TV purpose, like Netflix or something like that, or any other streaming service, Hulu, Amazon, anything, right? So I think in the lines between film and TV is blurring a little bit more. Um, so we always kind of nowadays we kind of categorize film and TV together. But commercial is really fun too. I've done commercial like print commercial or like just commercial, and that is always fun because it's very well paid and it doesn't take up it doesn't take up a lot of time too because it's usually like a day or two shoot and you're done.
Welcome to another episode of Navigating the Rise. So today we have this very awesome Vivian. I'll let her decide which last name she wants to use. So before I even go forward with the conversation, I'll let Vivian introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I am Vivian Ahn and I currently live in Los Angeles as even though we're doing the Skype call, but we are both in Los Angeles.
Yes.
So I don't know I've been here for about 10 years now and I've been pursuing acting. That's my primary passion.
Cool. So what are some of the major things you have been doing with your acting?
Major things. Okay, I guess everything's major. So I've done shows, I've done some TV and film work. There was one that was aired in China, and then there's one that's called Harry Danger, which I was in one of the episodes, and that's a Nickelodeon show.
Cool. So would you think that is it easier for you to do things here in like LA, Hollywood versus getting those work in China or Asia or somewhere else, or is it about the same in terms of the approach and difficulty?
Well, the China film that I actually got it here because they were doing a collaboration. So it's a China Hollywood collaboration and they needed actors here. So I was actually hired by casting directors here. I'm sure it's probably a lot more competitive. I shouldn't say that. I think it's probably equally competitive, like China versus here. But the difference being that in China, you're competing with other people who we look similar, the Asians. And here, we're competing with not just the same Asian, ethnicity, but other ethnicities as well. Especially nowadays when they do like Asian ethnicities, they don't just do that. It's usually open ethnicity. So you're like competing with a lot of different, basically everybody. And when they do Asian, it's not just like Chinese, Korean, Japanese, but it's like Asia, like Indonesian, Thai, Vietnamese, it just includes everybody. So I would say it's very competitive because casting they're just going to pick whoever's best for that role, really not based off of your ethnicity because that's the movement we're moving into, right?
So we kind of cut out a little bit, but you mentioned they will pick the best for the role, and then what'd you say?
So I said that I think casting directors will pick whoever's best to fit that role. So now it's not really just based off of your ethnicity, unless specifically they wanted that ethnicity to be portrayed. And I think they're a lot more careful now because I've actually auditioned for like nail salon girls and they really wanted Vietnamese people to play that role instead of faking it and or they had like Chinese person to play a geisha. I think they would be a lot more conscious now when they do that kind of things to if the role calls for a specific ethnicity.
Got it. Do you see that it is changing recently, or has always been like that in the past? When did that shift actually happen?
I feel like the shift happened more in the last couple of years because we've been very like acting on like wig or something. I see that on Facebook all the time. It's like calling out Scarlett Johansson playing a Asian person,
Uh,
pretend to be that, right? Um, or so that kind of thing. So I think now they're a lot more conscious. Although, like, I really don't think even if we talk about like Asians, like say for example Korean, Chinese, or Japanese, I think Japanese people are more like easier to pinpoint. But even that, like, I think even among us, we can't really tell sometimes, right?
yeah,
On like people who are not familiar with how we look.
yeah. I
So,
mean, like, if you think about in the past, when it had plays, women are not allowed to be on stage, right? So a lot of men will pretend to be women on
yeah.
the stage. So
Yeah.
it's almost like similarly now, like non-proper ethnicity, but they play and portray as someone else.
Hmm.
How men used to play as women on
Yeah.
stage.
Totally. Yeah. I guess, yeah. Good analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like I remember back in the day, like remember, I don't know if you remember the show Heroes or Heroes, right? And
Yeah.
the main just speaks Japanese all the time. But the one that plays his friend, I think he's Korean.
Oh, really?
And then he learned Japanese. And so, like, I remember listening to him sometimes, like, on the show. I was like, what was he talking about? Like, he like memorized the thing, but it's just maybe the tonation or the pronunciation of it, just like, what was he saying, And I'm sure like a Japanese person will like really hear that and know like he's pretending. But since it's an American show, nobody cares. um they're
So
like, oh,
yeah.
his friend, they're speaking Japanese, and on the subtitle it says Japanese, conversing in Japanese or something. We just accept it,
Yeah.
that being
So,
that. So
so I'm assuming you speak Japanese then, because otherwise you would not pick up the intonation.
yeah, but I'm not like native, so I don't. I mean, I put that on my resume, but nowadays, even that, they're very strict with like they want it. They would specifically say it needs to be a native Japanese person or something like.
Really? So even
Mhm.
though you say you know the language, if it's not native, it's kind of useless?
Depending on the role, again, if it's like a Japanese American, then I don't think they care. But if they specifically say that they want somebody who is fluent, you better be fluent and sound like a native person. Because I know, like, I went to one of the audition. It wasn't Japanese, it was Chinese. And the audition, actually, the whole thing was in Chinese. They even asked you questions in Chinese. And I remember sitting in the audition room, and the guy next to me, he did not speak any Chinese. And then he was like panicking a little bit. He's like, oh my God, I don't know what to say. He's trying to memorize like his answers and stuff like that. But it was like part of it is improv. So, I don't know. And he's like, I don't know. I just told my agent that I could speak it, but I didn't tell them how fluent I am, and they just submitted this role, and now I have to speak Japanese. I mean Chinese. I don't know if he got the role, but I mean that particular commercial was going to be marketed towards Chinese people, so you better be fluent and improvise on the spot.
I see, I see. Wow, that's pretty um amazing. So in that sense, I'm curious in your line of work, which I'm sure like with acting there are different kinds. Some gears more towards commercial, some gears more TV show, some gears
Mhm.
movies, etc. Which one is more like your focus? Well, I'm sure you can do all of them, but like what's on the one that you prefer to do, or the one that's like near the top of your list?
Um, well, I grew up like watching film, so that I think that's everybody's thing. You want to be a film actor. That's like the cool thing. But I think film, because this film is a lot shorter, it's condensed. So I wanted to do film, but I know the trend right now is the TV because we have a lot of like streaming devices. So even when you do film, it's for TV purpose, like Netflix or something like that, or any other streaming service, Hulu, Amazon, anything, right? So I think and the lines between film and TV is blurring a little bit more. Um, so we always kind of nowadays we kind of categorize film and TV together. But commercial is really fun too. I've done commercial like print commercial or like just commercial, and that is always fun because it's very well paid and it
Ah,
doesn't take up it doesn't take up a lot of time too because it's usually like a day or two shoot and you're done. Versus like months if it's just an ongoing show, right? Film, it's like a few months, um, more intense. So that would be the main difference, I think, because I know people will like disagree with me. There's like acting differences and that kind of thing,
uh-huh.
um, but that the duration is, I would say, also like different, like time wise and pay.
Uh-huh. So I'm assuming is there a specific one that you're more interested in than the other one? Is the film? Because you say what you grew up watching film.
Yeah, I grew up watching film. I think if I were in Asia, I would totally want to do TV more. But here, I would like to be in film more. But TV is fun too. I'm like kind of changing my mindset as well. Like I think film and TV both are fun. You know, it's different, but they're fun. And TV, there's a lot more different genre, as in like sitcoms versus real. I don't know about reality TV because that's too much just me on TV. It's too awkward. I want to play somebody else.
Oh,
Um, but yeah, like, and TV is more consistent work because then if you're a series regular, then basically, unless your show gets canceled, you're gonna have consistent work. Versus film, after a few months, you're out of job and you have to look for the next one. Um,
I see. So it's almost like TV is like full-time work, full-time, and the film is like contract work in a way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Good analogy. Very good, George.
Interesting. Yeah. So what about commercial? Because you mentioned commercials pay really well.
Yes.
So and short. So does that mean commercial pays more or better than TV or film?
Uh, if you look at the hour rate, yes, I would say. But however, there is something that's also changing right now is the non-union work because I'm SAG.
Yeah.
So, but then a lot of commercial now they are going non-union because it's easier, it's less money that they have to pay because SAG has a lot of restrictions or insurance. I mean, it protects the workers for sure.
Yeah.
But to the company side, they could save a lot more money if they do non-union. For example, buyouts, like SAG will have a certain regulation and you have to get residuals and all that stuff. And then union, usually they just pay you a lump sum and that's it, right? Um, but the thing is, like, my friend is a non-union actor and he did a commercial in Mexico. He got bumped into a principal. He was just one of the like main character principal player, but then he got bumped to be the main actor for the commercial. And then that commercial got renewed. So usually they do like a 12-week type of thing for commercial. So you do it, so you film it once, and then they'll play it for 12 weeks. And then if they don't want to use that same commercial, they want to change the faces or change a new concept or whatever it is, they will shoot a new one, right? But if they want to save money, they might just buy another 12-week and then play that commercial over again. And
Yeah.
his commercial was played for, I don't know, he said he got renewed like 6 times. And each time he got a little bit more money for it. And so he did that one job for like he got paid to go to Mexico for like
Yeah.
3 days or something. So that
Yeah.
was all paid for. And he was on a cruise or like a yacht or something like that. So it's like super fun. Shot for like 3, 4 days. The thing renewed like 6 times. He got like, so if you imagine that, like the work that you've done, like that you put in the hours, and then just the money that comes in afterwards. But it's really hard to book commercials too. So I mean, there's a lot of commercials, but there's a lot of commercial actors.
Yeah.
It's very competitive too. So I'm not making it sound like it's easy. Just book a commercial and you're good.
Yeah, I was in commercial too.
I know. I know McDonald's, they don't do this kind of buyout. They want to change up their concepts all the time, so it really depends on the company. So
So when it comes to commercial, like, and the rates, like, are the commercial like very fixed, or is it also depending on the actors too? The rates can be changed.
if you're not like super famous that people recognize you right away, usually it's fixed. If it's a name actor, they usually will be like it's negotiable. So it depends on how your agent negotiate with the agent. I mean, with the company or the casting people or whoever that's hiring the actors. So they'll negotiate their rate. If you're a spokesperson, for example, like if you think of all these insurance commercials,
Yeah.
same people that's going over, they definitely have a higher rate because they're the spokesperson now, so they get a really good rate for their work.
So out of curiosity, what's like the current like market rate for these type of things? For
Actually, if you go on SAG, because it changes. So
interesting.
if you Google, you'll actually get a list of, I only know SAG ones, because SAG will post their rates.
I see.
So you can find out what the SAG rates are. Um, Non-union, it really depends. That's why a company can save a lot of money because it could be as low as 100 a day to 500 or 1,000, for 12 hours or something like that. So it depends on the company, and then they'll do a buyout. So they'll be like, okay, we'll pay you $2,000 total plus 20% agent fee, and that's it for your 12-hour work or something like that. But like if it's a
That's not.
SAG, it's not a lot.
That's not.
Yeah. But you're banking on they would renew your contract because they want to keep playing that commercial, like my friend. Because I remember when he did it, this is like 6, 7 years ago. I think at first he only got like $3,000 total. I don't know how much he got in pocket because there's also agency fee and all that stuff, right? Right, so that you have to pay. So when he shot the thing was like, I think it was like 3,000 or something like that. But then afterwards, each time they renewed it, it bumped up more. Like, I'm not sure what the rate is because but it's a lot more than $3,000.
Okay. Got it. So in terms of like, what are some of the challenges to be in the industry? I imagine that it's kind of difficult. I've seen people always getting a part-time job because they have to leave on short-term notice, all these different things. Like, I'm sure there's the glamour you see, but there's also all these things you don't see. I'm curious about some of the challenges that happens within the industry.
I don't know if everybody saw like La La Land or something like that. In it kind of portrays a little bit of that. Except she got famous at the end of the
Ah,
movie, and she works on the lot of Warner Brothers. Not all of us get to do that, and yeah, a lot of people get part-time jobs, and the typical like cliche work job for actors to get to do is like waitressing, because supposedly it's more flexible, but really it depends on the employer and if you could find somebody to sub for you. So even if it's like a waitering or waitressing job, I still feel like it's not that easy to get off work. Because as an actor, you're a freelancer and your job is not acting, your job is auditioning. Because
what?
I know. It's crazy. Our job is not acting. Our job is to audition. if that's something, it's something I learned once I got into the industry. Okay. And
Tell me more. I'm confused.
I know, right? So because the amount of auditions that we have to go to book that job, the I remember my friend said he watched some like documentary of this like famous person. He's famous now, okay? And he said his rate back in the day, or like the rate of booking, is like 1%. Okay, 1% booking rate. So imagine that. You have to go to 100 auditions to get that one job.
And that one job can only last maybe like what, a month, 2 months?
Who knows? And it doesn't come right away. The check has to go to the agency, and then they take their portion out, and this portion out, and that portion out, and then when it gets to you, you're like, what? Half of the money's gone. And it's like a month or 2 months later. So you don't get that check right away. And it's 1%. So I mean, I'm sure like the famous people, like super famous people now, they don't audition as much. They get booked off whatever thing. But it's like one to, I would say best maybe if you could do 10%, that's awesome. Okay. But I think most of us are probably 1%. So if you think about that, like our job really is to audition. And I know a lot of people, because of their job, because they need a survival job. So that's a term I use now, because I always use like, oh, yeah, it's a job. I don't really want to do it. And I'm doing it for the money. So it's survival job. Okay. So my survival job, or anyone's survival job, it's like it's really hard to get the time off, because you don't get the nowadays, because everything's a lot electronic. And so, and casting people, I know they work so hard. And I went to a seminar, and the guy said that within 3 hours of posting a role, they get 3,000, at least 3,000 submissions. And they have to go through 3,000 people and even more. That's the first 3 hours. So after that, there's going to be more coming in. So it could go even more, right? And so they have to go through that, however many people, and then shrink it down to like 30 people that they want to see, if they could see that many people, okay? And then that 30, they have to choose that one person for the job.
Interesting. I would imagine now they will use like how when people apply for jobs now they use the ATS tracking system to filter things. Wouldn't they use something similar to filter these kind of things too, to go through all these applications?
No, but see, this is different, because applications, like a regular job, is probably easier because you based off of like the skills or whatever. But acting is based off of your look. And yes, your skill, but you have to see that skill. So I know when you submit, if you have your picture and a reel, like a video or a short clip, you'll be pushed more up to the top of their list. So they'll see you first. And then it's the people with just a video or just a picture. And then the people with no video at all, just a picture. And then the rest of you guys don't have anything on your thing right now. They will look at you last. So that's how they go through those. And they have to go through every one of those to get a feel if this person would be a good candidate and worth their time to come in and see. Because they're going to have to rent a space and do a time slot and see all these people too, to gauge if you can act. And so it's not just about like acting. Sometimes people get really nervous, and if you can't act in front of a casting director, imagining you have to act opposite of, like, I don't know, somebody famous, somebody really hot, I don't know, Tom Cruise, who's hot right now, people, George Clooney, I don't know, I'm so old school.
Whoa.
Or like somebody who's or like, I don't know, Anne Hathaway, Scarlett Johansson, or somebody, like you might get like speechless, and you get like starstruck or something, and you can't even say your lines. So they want to make sure that also that you're not weird.
Not weird.
So that's how they have to see you in person. So, and they do a lot more, like nowadays they do a lot more self-taping, so they could actually see a little bit more people than having them come in and give them a time slot. So the self-taping thing is, and then they'll, once they get that first round of self-tapes, and then they'll choose from there who they want to see in person.
I just realized something. I think there's a big business opportunity if I want to get into that space. The system is just so broken, the way they do things. It just feels so broken. There has to be a better way.
Really? Like how?
Because think about it, on the applicant side, you go
Mm-hmm.
through all these effort for that 1% chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on the casting people's part, it's like you have to sort through thousands of people. It's like there has to be a better way than going through the manually looking through. There has to be a way to where they match you with where they filter the relevant bookings to you, so your ratio percentage of booking,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so more to 1%. And similarly, on the casting side, they can actually just only look at the one that's the most promising. So I think there's a lot of way to make it better. I think it's broken, in my opinion. It's really broken.
I don't know until they come up with a better system.
I'll do it. I'll do it. How about that? I'll do it.
Because I can't think of any other ways that you would be able to do it, because you have to see, they don't spend that much time. That's why, like, if you send in like a super long clip, they usually just watch the first 10 seconds of it, and they already have a pretty good idea if they like this person or no, so that's why, like, headshots, they said, is really important. You want to make sure that when you submit that headshot, it reflects that role that you're submitting for, and that's why actors need to get like a million different headshots. um and also there's like also branding. There's a lot of like things that going on. So the main thing is, like, people think like actors get into this and they just have to act, but our job is actually auditioning and market yourself,
That's
because
good.
you're a product, right? And
Yeah.
you don't know who you are, what you are, why people will hire you or buy you. um, you don't get hired, or you don't get picked. So you have to also like brand yourself a little bit, like if you're known for a certain thing. And I know I argue with people about like branding and stuff like that, but they're like, no, people can only remember like three things, the top three things that you can do. Maybe after you're really good at those, and people will be like, okay, and maybe you have to be the producer or something to create your own content and let people see you play a different side of you. But if you think about like the people that are acting right now, they play very similar roles.
Got it.
Except for, like,
Interesting.
I don't know, what's his name? The one that plays Meet the Parents. Um, oh my God, I just can't remember his name.
It's okay. It's probably not that important then.
No, he's famous. Everybody's like, oh my God, she can't remember his name. Because I want to say Dustin, but it's not Dustin. It's somebody. Robert De Niro.
Okay, that sounds familiar. I don't know. I don't know any of these people. So I know the old school people. You know.
Robert De Niro is like 60 or something now.
Oh, okay. I guess he's not in my top of the list.
Yeah, because he used to play like really serious roles only, like all these mafia,
Oh, I see. I
like
see.
Meet the Fockers.
Oh, okay. I know who
So
he is now. Got it. Got it. Got it. Yeah.
doing comedy stuff, but he still could do the serious stuff because people know that he's very good at it already. So you have to be really good at whatever you do, and then an opportunity comes and you get to do a completely different thing, and people realize, oh, you can actually do that too. Then you can branch out and do different things. But yeah, I was told that you have to be really good at what you do and focus on that one thing.
So I'm curious now, with all these like failures, 1% booking rate, how do actors and actresses cope with these rejections, these like downtime? I'm sure it must be very difficult, right? During that process. How do you deal with that emotionally?
At the beginning, me personally, at the very beginning, I used to have a little book and I would write down like today I went to this audition and yeah, this is what I did wrong that I think I did wrong because you don't get any like input anyways because you go in, do your thing and they're like thank you and then you leave. You don't know how you did. You don't know why you didn't get it. So I have the little book and I think what I did wrong and like kind of like really like self-criticize like it's always not what I did right, but what I did wrong and how I should improve next time or something like that. But after like, I think maybe we get so thick-skinned or you need to develop that. After a while, I'm just like, after the audition, I might like beat myself up a little bit in the car and then I go on with my day. Like you just kind of have to forget about it. And I would say if you don't hear back within a week, you probably didn't get it. So, and there's a lot of things that go into it that you're not picked because it could be like they cut your role. They don't need that scene anymore. So it has nothing to do with you. Or they want a taller person because they hire another person who's taller. Or they need a shorter person. Or they want a different ethnicity. They rewrote the story. I don't know. There's a million reasons why you didn't pick. So like really, you can't really beat yourself up for it. So that's how I cope with things. But a lot of people do full out. So this is also a business that you just have to see whoever could stick around the longest.
So
and just never give up and just keep going and keep going and keep going.
interesting. Wow. Cool. So there's a story I usually end with the podcast, or with this recording in general. So this is about like I'm not sure if it's related to our topic, but it's just very interesting when I thought of your profile, because so this is a story. It's maybe it touches on our Asian root or something like that, where you gotta be feeling piety, etc. Where it says, "Hey, someone's lot today will be mine tomorrow." So one long time ago in this kingdom, right? So there's a rule that when a person reach 60 years of age, right? So he pretty much old, etc. The kids who are still there, they have to give a mat for the parent to sit on to guard the door until he dies. So he basically, after 60, he sit on the mat in front of the door night and day until he dies. Okay, so what happened then is the brothers, the older brother asked the younger brother, "Hey, can you go find a mat and give it to father so he can sit by the gate from now on?" But the younger brother was really devoted to his father and think it's unjust. So he got the mat and he cut it in half and gave half of it to the father. "Sorry, Dad, father, you have to sit on this mat and watch over the gate from now on." And the brother asked, "Wait, why didn't you give him the whole mat?" So the younger brother said, "If I give it all to father now, it'll be a trouble down the road." And then the older brother's like, was really confused. Why would be the trouble? He's like, and then he said, "Well, no one stays young for the younger brother said, no one stays young forever. The other half is for you." And then the older brother said, "For me, why?" The younger brother then said, "When you turn 60, won't your children be distressed if there's no mat for you?" And then the older brother in that case realized that his own children will face his own issue. And so what happened then, decided to fight against that rule and overturn that rule in the kingdom. So what basically that story says, it's like the law of someone else's today will be mine tomorrow. So sometimes we are so filled with self-importance that we find it difficult to perceive the stark reality of our end. So that's that story in general. I'm curious about what do you think in terms of how it relates to your life or just in general.
So you're saying like somebody, if it applies to somebody else, one day it'll also apply to me kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay. Like, for example, what do you mean? What is that law then in acting, like that you're thinking of that would be for somebody else, but eventually it'll be my turn as well? Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
So
old or
So so my interpretation of that story is that sometimes we're so focused on ourselves that we forgot to see things from different perspective. Like the brother was so focused on reacting to the law, the rules, etc., and looking only from his perspective that hey, you're like, oh, you're the rule, you gotta follow the rule, you gotta sit on the mat, without considering from his father's perspective. It's like, oh my God, that could be me one day. It
mm-hmm,
took his younger brother to make that awakening to have
mm-hmm,
his change of his stark reality. So for
mm-hmm.
me, that story talks about it's not good to be too self-important, but to empathize with others from that perspective. So I imagine that has a lot of
Okay. Yeah, okay. I could see it how it relates to like this industry. I guess everybody is young and then they get their like 1 minute fame or something like that. And eventually you're gonna be so for example, we get to play like the ingenue or something like that, and then you're gonna
okay.
have to play like the mom and you're gonna have to play the grandma.
Yeah.
Or that kind of thing. And I remember this is I so instead of trying out here in Hollywood, I actually wanted to try pursue my acting in Taiwan before. And I remember at that time, I'm not like young, okay? Like I was in my 20s. And I remember I met an agent and I was like, hey, I wanted to see if I have any chance in Taiwan because I was here in the States and thinking about like moving back or something like that. And I said, hey, what do you think of like my look? Do I get a chance or whatever? And he's like, oh yeah, send me your information. I sent it. And then he was like, oh, after he saw my photo, he's like, oh, you should get, what did he say? You'll look like a good wife. I think that's what he said. He's like, yeah, I think you'll be good as a wife. And I was like,
What
oh,
does
you mean
that
like,
mean?
I know. I was like, you mean like I would be really good to play a wife, and which I'm totally fine with because
Uh-huh.
fine. And here's my dog. Uh, and no, he was like, oh no no no, I meant that you should go and get married and be somebody's wife
What?
and basically forget about acting in Asia. Because I asked him about Asia.
Yep.
And
So
I
what
was
does
like,
that what does that mean?
why? And he's like, because we don't want people who are like your age. And basically, he was also telling me like I don't look cute enough. I'm too fat. I'm too old. And he's like, we are always looking for people who are like around 13 or something like that. We
There,
young as possible, like child stars. We want people who are young that we could train and they will be the star or whatever. And I was like, but they're young. Like you need people to fill in the roles of the girlfriend, the mom, the grandma, the
yeah.
whoever, right? Like that's what acting's about. And he's like, oh no no no. We always want the young people because the older people, like the young people that we scouted, they're gonna grow old and they're gonna fill in those other roles. So we only want young people. And that story almost kind of reminded me of that. And that's very like how Asia is thinking about. But over here, people don't care how old you are, and you're not even allowed to ask how old you are at casting.
Yeah.
It's more about your perceived look.
I
And so like if you can pull off a 20-year-old look, you can play a 20-year-old role. And so then I think that's why all these stars are like trying to preserve their look because they want to look younger and still play the ingenue or something like that. But eventually, I mean, you have to grow out of it, and you just have to. It's a different life experience. I feel like, and you can't be always stuck with thinking that you'll nothing changes. But yeah, I don't know how that does that even relate to your question? Just kind of went on a ramble thing,
sit
but
on.
I said
Yes,
did
it
it,
works.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to play how like act when I'm like 70s or 80s. I don't care what, like when I got into this business, I was thinking I want to be famous and I want to act against all these like cute boys or whatever, you know. Yeah.
And
And
then what happened?
yeah, or like I didn't really like myself, so I wanted to be somebody else. So I think that's what acting's about. But then after I take acting and I realize acting is about knowing yourself and what trigger yourself and actually loving yourself and understand yourself. And no matter which role you play, you're playing a snippet of yourself, like a different side of you. Trying to get into the psyche of that character, but it's still how you interpret that character. And that's why we have auditions, because everybody perceives the characters a little differently and everybody act a little differently. And so whoever acts the most interesting way gets the job. And so it's not me pretending to be somebody else playing this role, but it's me playing this role. And 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 I wanted to be like the A-list, and I would always play the main character. But now like my mindset kind of changes as I grow a little older, that I think I don't mind playing a supporting role. I don't mind playing a bystander. I don't care. I enjoy being on set. And you just have to, I think this job, you have to love the job. You have to love being on set. You have to be okay with having just a one line or have no lines. Sometimes, I don't know if you notice, sometimes like some people kill the scene with no lines and you remember their work, even though they just appear in that one scene and they killed it. And so when I was in acting school, and the teacher is like, there's no small role. There's only small, like, people, you know, like
Oh,
you
wow.
make that role small, but there's no small role. Every role is written into the scene or the film or TV or show for a reason. And you're there to serve that story. And without this person, the story can't go forward. And so you're important no matter how little your lines are. And it's not about that. So it's about telling the story, serving the story. So,
Yeah. So, for people who are not in your field, for
mm-hmm.
example, people who are in general, like inside, who are just are non-creatives, they're doing spreadsheets and other things like that. How can they support people like you who have appeals to mass audience?
I think there's a few different ways. Like, for example, if you have money, that's even better. As you know, most of our actors we're starving artists.
Yep.
As we've talked about, like survival jobs and all that stuff. So if you have a little bit of money, it's always good. I think there's always people like me and other people, you know, filmmakers too, that they're trying to create their own content, looking for some monetary wise. I mean, we try to do it like for free, but because it's our passion, but it always helps if we can actually, because most of the actors are willing to act for free because we just love our job. But then it's really hard to get technical people. For example, sound, editing, like all these post production, or even like special effects. You know, these people cost money, and if we try to do everything we could, but the quality wouldn't be as good. And so, you know, by donating or something, you can become like one of the executive producers, you know, for the show. And so that's one way of helping. And or just by contributing your own story. I think we're always looking for people with different stories that we wanted to help, you know, to spread and help to for other people to relate. You know, I think everybody has their own unique story that they can share, and people can get inspired from it, you know. So if you have stories that you want to share, I think that's really helpful as well. You know, brainstorming and that kind of thing, or just, you know, giving feedbacks, I think always help. Or just like your emotional support, being our fan and just like our every single post, or our fan page or something like that. I always get really happy when I see like new followers, and get really sad when there's like followers dropping. I was like, why, so that's always really helpful. And then lastly, I think when we do have things coming out, it will be really, really helpful to share our product with other people, because we only have so many people around our sphere that we can influence, and by having more people spreading the final product out, it would really help, and just support. It's really just like that emotional support. So I think every time someone tells me that I'm doing a really good job, or like my story touched them or something like that, it gives that like it makes me feel really good, and I want to keep doing what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it goes back to that thing about like how to keep going, right? And I think when you know that somebody is supporting you, like even not monetary wise, just that emotional support, I think that's what keeps keep most of us going.
Got it. I agree with the fact that when I see my subscribers drop, I get sad. When they increase, I get really happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Sounds good. Just want to have a takeaway. I completely agree with that. Like even with K-pop, they want to train their people and do it the way they want to do it. I think it's a typical Asian culture in
Mm-hmm.
the entertainment business. So kind of now, kind of what sum things up. That
Mm-hmm.
basically now in this industry, ethnicity now is a bit more conscious now in Hollywood, and
Mm-hmm.
TV is becoming more mainstream because of the
Mm-hmm.
streaming devices and services, and
Mm-hmm.
how really that your picture and your reel is very important, and that
Mm-hmm.
first 10 seconds can make or break you, right? And kind of main thing you mentioned about being in that industry is to never give up. That kind of
Mm-hmm.
play a lot on your probably the Asian nuances of diligence and just working hard, right?
Yep.
And you also mentioned that there's no small role, and in order to be a good actress or actor, you have to first be really self-aware. Otherwise, it's harder for you to actually make it because it's more about finding yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my gist of
Yeah.
it. Am I missing anything that you want to add?
No, I think you summed it up really well. I
Okay.
mean, I'm sure maybe I'll come up with something after that we hung up. I was like, no, I want to say this, but yeah, you did it
Okay.
really well.
Well, sounds good. Well, then
Mhm.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for the opportunity, and let me just ramble and chat and
No
share.
problem. Anytime, anywhere.
All right.